Hi all and welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're all doing okay. Bear with me with this sprint format, because although there's nothing, officially announced, this is something that, I think could well be picked up by Formula One and the FIA and may well be introduced at some point in the future, but bear with me with that. I've got a couple of more brutal comments, but first of all, I'm going to start off with Felipe Massa. And Felipe Massa has stepped up his legal battle over losing the 2008 world title by sending a letter to the FIA and F1, laying out the details of his impending claim. The letter states that if there is no significant response within 2 weeks, the lawyers are instructed to start legal proceedings. In a statement from Felipe Massa's legal team announcing a stepping up of legal action from Massa, simply put, they said, Mr. Massa is the rightful 2008 Drivers' Champion. The F1 and FIA deliberately ignored the misconduct that cheated him out of that title. I can't see... some reports are saying that he's seeking compensation, others are saying that he wants the title back. I can't see either of those happening, but still, you never know. Maybe from a legal point of view they feel they've got a leg to stand on here, so time will tell, I suppose. But on to a couple of more brutal comments. I mean, the second one I thought was brutal at first, but I think we've discussed this on the channel before, but we'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, Fred Vasseur has said via Italian Weekly Autosprint, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are exactly on the same level. They are equal. It was like this before, and it will be like this in the future. Even Mercedes treats Russell and Hamilton the same way, and the same goes for Gasly and Ocon, or Alonso and Stroll. The only team with a lead driver is Red Bull. Well, I think most teams have a lead driver to an extent, but it's quite brutal. I don't think none of these comments really help Perez, but anyway, that's what he had to say. And on to Nico Rosberg. Like I said, I did think this was a brutal comment at first, but the more I think about what he said, and like I said, I think we've discussed this on the channel before, it does kind of make sense. But anyway, this is what Nico had to say. It's so difficult for a driver when you start to come to the realization that, hey, this guy does things that I will never be able to do in my life. And of course, I had these moments with Lewis. Fortunately, they didn't last too long, but there was always these moments where I look at the data and I'm like, there's no way I would be able to do this. This is inhuman. It's not even human anymore, and that's what Sergio Perez will be looking at with Verstappen, and it's tough. It's really tough to accept that, and that's what Nico Rosberg had to say on Sergio Perez via Sky Sports F1 podcast. And now, while we're talking about the Sky Sports F1 podcast, I personally hope the interview with Crofty, David Croft that is, wasn't seen or heard by Max Verstappen or Stefano Domenicali. He's currently looking at ways to improve the sprint format for 2024 with a Grand Slam trophy for pole in the sprint, and then the same driver going on to win the sprint. Anyway, Crofty was asked about his thoughts on the sprint format, and this is what he had to say about it.
I think the sprint concept is good. I like it, but I don't like it being part of the World Championship. I'd like 2 separate World Championships, like cricket has T20, one day, and the Test match, and we'll keep them separate. And have your sprint day on a Friday, maybe, rather than the Saturday, and have you could go into sprint qualifying, and then the sprint with maybe a 20-minute warm up in the morning. That's your Friday, and then the cars are not in Parc Fermé,
yes,
for the rest of the weekend,
because
you then have your practice session on the Saturday morning, Saturday qualifying, race on Sunday. So you're keeping the two very separate for different World Championships. And if the teams and if all the drivers don't want to run in the Sprint World Championships, fine. There's enough reserve drivers that do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good way of getting the reserve drivers involved in that. So commercially, that's kind of what I'd look at.
So there you have it. That you've heard what Crofty's thoughts are on what his preferred sprint format would look like. I'm not so sure about this. I mean, to start off with, they'd have to implement sprint race at every weekend, every race weekend, to be able to do, before they even think about a championship in that sense. Is that possible with their net zero targets for 2030 and their sustainability targets as well? I don't know. I really would like to get your thoughts on this. I'm not a massive fan of the sprint. It's not too bad now that the sprint doesn't affect anything to do with the race qualifying or the race, the pole position and so on like that, like it did before. So I don't mind it so much. But this again, Max has already said plenty of times that he's against doing more and more and more when it comes to Formula One, with an ever increasing calendar. Now you're talking like a mini race weekend within a full race weekend. To me, it doesn't make sense. And Max has recently said he thinks that Formula One is more about the money than the sport, and I absolutely agree with him there. Money to them is by far more important, and I've always said, and I'll always say it with Liberty Media, they're a business. Profit comes first. The sport will always come second. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this isn't something that's been set in stone, but normally when you get people like Crofty, who is a commentator for Formula One themselves via their own channels, Formula One TV and that, and ESPN and places like that, these comments don't go unnoticed. So anyway, please let me have your thoughts in the comments. I really would like to hear what you've got to say about this, and your thoughts on sprint format, whether you like it or not, or can see this moving forwards. But anyway, thanks for listening. Thank you for your support, and until the next time, take care, everybody.